Mr Ramos said yesterday he was willing to discuss strategies to stamp out child sex tours with the Prime Minister, Mr Keating.
Well, good. And after that, I hope somebody will do something about those tours of China with Gough and Margaret. Good evening. The next one's from the weekend version of the same paper. It's a map of
Australians in combat in World War II,
detailing Libya, Egypt, Palestine and Syria as among the places
where we fought in Europe.
So, failures this week in geography and grammar. How are the journos doing at arithmetic? Well, not too well if Seven's Natalie Barr is anyone to go by.
The dry spell even has the country's long-range forecast experts baffled. Their prediction for the next 3 months, a 30% chance of rain, a 30% chance of no rain, and a 30% chance there'll be a bit of both.
That leaves 10% unaccounted for. Snow? Not that the scribes are any more impressive at play than they are at work. This sign's on display outside the National Press Club in Canberra.
Unauthorised vehicles subject to be towed away.
Channel 7 says I got it wrong last week when I named Peter Landy as one of those who thought this, an eagle, was one of these, an Amazon. I should have said it was Don Scott. No doubt Mr Scott's grateful to his executive producer at 7 for putting him in. Now, onto that great journalistic word, alleged, for which read, I don't want to be sued for saying this, so here's the usual incantation. For example, the Sandringham and Brighton Advertiser on a drug raid.
Police allegedly seized marijuana plants.
Mature plants were allegedly growing in the backyard.
Younger plants were allegedly growing hydroponically.
He was allegedly growing the drugs for his own use.
Well, not bad for a start, but not a patch on Matthew O'Sullivan, police roundsperson on the Bendigo Advertiser. 14 allegedlys in one story.
Allegedly took part in damaging a war memorial.
Allegedly severing the hand.
Had allegedly been smashing bottles.
Allegedly sitting down in a circle.
Allegedly run off into the next street.
She could allegedly see the youths.
Allegedly took off his backpack.
He allegedly pulled on the strap.
The youths allegedly pushed and pulled the monument.
The youths allegedly ran away.
Allegedly recognised one.
Allegedly became involved.
Allegedly tried to get into it.
Allegedly took their names.
Overabundant caution, you think? Even that's not as impressive as the disclaimer Channel 10 used on Tuesday. You may think you're actually seeing this happen, but you're not. This footage is a mere allegation.
The Blacktown prop forward in number 8 took the ball ahead, was tackled and penalised by referee Aaron Jones. The home video shows his reaction to the penalty as he allegedly headbutts, then punches the referee.
Fortunately, the referee's injuries were only alleged. A couple of media watches ago, we noted the role of some journalists in one current Royal Commission, the one in Adelaide. This week, it's 7 News' Jeff Parry and the Lawrence Eastern Royal Commission in Perth.
Investigators trying to find out how he knew about the Eastern petition before it was tabled in Parliament. Parry was pressed repeatedly to reveal his sources. He refused and could face contempt charges.
Today, Commission lawyers on both sides of the fence repeatedly asked him to reveal his source of information. Parry respectfully, but repeatedly, refused. I am guided by the journalist's code of ethics, Parry said, when asked if the source was Brian Easton himself. I declined to answer that on the basis it would breach my code of ethics.
Thank God for Jeff Parry, high-minded and ethical journalist. Here he is at work on the same story last year.
Don't intrude on my privacy.
What about the intrusion on the Parliament of your petition, which contained things that you knew were untrue?
Rubbish.
They were untrue, Brian. Weren't they? They were lies. 4 days after publicly making those claims, Easton's ex-wife Penny killed herself. Do you apologise for the effect that that petition had? That it caused the death of your wife, your ex-wife Penny. Do you apologise for that? Mr Easton could be jailed at the discretion of the Parliament. You might be getting angry, Brian, but your wife is dead as a result of that petition.
Mr Parry's ethics don't prevent him from hounding people or asserting the gravest allegations while addressing his target by his first name. But here's Parry's most shameful conduct in the whole Eastern matter. A short piece of videotape obtained when he bailed up the unfortunate Penny Easton in her garage just 3 days before her suicide.
Richard Court, he's been cleared of any wrongdoing by a police inquiry. The allegation that he leaked confidential documents later used in a divorce case. But as Jeff Parry reports, it's not the end of Mr. Court's problems.
As you appreciate, the allegations are fairly serious.
This is Penelope Easton, a central figure in the allegations made against Richard Court.
Is there something that you'd like to say about your husband's petition to Parliament?
Mrs Easton's ex-husband, Brian Easton, claimed in a petition to State Parliament yesterday that Richard Court had given confidential documents to Mrs Easton that were used in a divorce action.
And just the footage of Mrs Easton again.
As you appreciate, the allegations are fairly serious.
This is Penelope Easton, a central figure in the allegations made against Richard Court.
Is there something that you'd like to say about your husband's petition to Parliament?
What we can say is that the highly ethical Jeff Parry had Mrs Easton bailed up on her own property for a lot longer than those few seconds Seven put to air. What else did Parry assert to her? How long did he keep her trapped there? What did she say? What effect did Parry's intrusion have on the late Mrs Easton? I speculate that Mr Parry would answer thus.
I decline to answer that on the basis it would breach my code of ethics.
The draft version of the revised Journalist Code of Ethics, we've been waiting for it for more than 2 years, is due out later this week. We can hardly wait. One aspect we're particularly interested in is what impact any new set of ethical standards would have on ABC radio bores who turn their programs over to magazine editors so they can flog this week's edition. For instance, Angela Weber on 2BL.
First up this week, I'm joined online by Tim Blair from Time magazine. Hi, Tim, how are you?
I'm good, Angela, and you're well, I hope?
Yes, I am, thank you. Now, your cover story this week, we're on the eve of finding the secrets to Davy Jones' locker.
Yes.
That was the kickoff, and Ms. Weber's free promotion for Time magazine extended over almost 7 minutes. Immediately after the man from Time hung up, Ms. Weber gave us this.
And to the Bulletin now, and I'm joined by Scott Milson, who is the Deputy Editor of the Bulletin. Hi, Scott, how are you?
Hi, Angela. Well, thank you.
Now, your cover story this week, very timely piece given the announcement yesterday of the new Governor-General, Sir William Dean.
Mr. Packer would have been delighted. More than 10 minutes free airtime on ABC Radio to flog his magazine. She does it all the time. Something I find even more irritating occurs on ABC Radio's late night programme, run by Tony Delroy.
Jane Nichols from Who magazine and the Hollywood Hot.
This happens every Monday, an extended promotion for Who magazine, an egregiously trashy little tabloid put out by Time Inc. for persons whose IQ is somewhat less than their hat size.
Keanu Reeves says that when he read the script, he had to smile when he got to the bit where there's a scene with him on a bus. He says, my mind's going, I'm back on the bus. And speaking of back on the bus, we said to him, what about the sequel? He says, well, he doesn't know if he's going to do Speed 2, but he says that he's got a few quirky little ideas that could reunite him with Sandra Bullock.
Is the ABC audience really the same people who read Who magazine? What a depressing thought. Still, while the ABC radio bores are in the business of serving commercial interests, why stop at magazines? Frank Crook, again on 2BL, doesn't. He flogs, and with no little enthusiasm, furniture rentals.
Radio rentals have now moved into furniture, and they're launching a furniture try and buy scheme. The idea is customers can rent brand new furniture with the option of buying it after they've had it for a year. John Hughes is the Managing Director of Radio Rentals, and he's with us on the line now.
If I didn't know better, I'd think Crook was being paid to ask these Dorothy Dixers.
What sort of furniture can you choose from? And the option is to buy what you've hired after 12 months. Who are you aiming the scheme at, John? Can you update the furniture every year or thereabouts? John, what sort of prices are we talking about? How many outlets will your stores offer the service in?
Does anyone in the higher reaches of ABC management listen to the stuff they're broadcasting? Here's Frank Crook again, doing a favour for someone who's flogging metal detectors to gold fossicers.
Could you just run us past that new detector again, what it's called and what it does?
It's SD2000 is the model of it.
Right.
It's built by Minelab in South Australia.
Right.
There's been quite a demand for the detector. It's in short supply.
Still, the ABC wasn't alone in promoting the interests of Mr. Bill Gates, though it was certainly up there with the most enthusiastic of them. We've been able to deconstruct these as the essential elements of covering the product launch of Windows 95. First, you claim to be aware it's all hype.
And if you believe the hype, and there's plenty of it, nothing will be the same once it hits the market.
The media have done much of the work for Gates.
The impact of Microsoft's marketing hype.
Put aside the hype, however.
The hype surrounding Windows 95.
Having said that, you then adopt the hype.
Welcome to what Microsoft says is the deal of the decade.
The biggest event in the history of computers.
Microsoft mania is hitting everyone.
A sensation at its unveiling last week.
Promises new frontiers in the computer world.
Now, the wheel of the 90s is a computer program called Windows 95, and it's about to revolutionise PCs while earning its creator another $1.5 billion.
Actually, if you believe the 730 report's Craig McMurtry, $1.5 billion would be a disastrous loss.
It's been $6 billion in the making.
I thought Bill Gates was supposed to be smart. Next, reproduce the promotional material handed out by the marketing people, as they did across the front pages of The Age, the Newcastle Herald, and The Australian. At the ABC, the ABC again,
the most expensive launch in corporate history.
Channel 7.
After a $1 billion promotion, Microsoft's Windows 95 goes on sale at midnight.
Next essential, interview a man with the accent of a New Zealander, the manner of a car salesman, and a belief that an inanimate object has magical qualities.
Product gives the computer a personality because it's intuitive, it's fun, it's faster, it's a lot more fun, it's a lot more intuitive, so it will respond to people.
Oh yeah, and access is a verb. Next, the essential balancing element of a mild critic.
However, it's just an operating system. It's not as exciting, for example, like a dessert topping or floor wax. It's not even as useful as that.
But in the end, make a fearless appraisal. Journalism, after all, is an unrelenting quest for the truth. Best exemplified by Howard Gibbs from the Ray Martin 6:30 show.
Well, if you're a computer buff like me, you'll probably be in the queue to get your copy, because I reckon it's the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Sorry, but I can't take any more of this. Good night to you.